Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to unpack something huge. How do you possibly forge one single unified nation out of a subcontinent that is just teeming with hundreds of languages, all these different religions, and incredibly distinct cultures? This is the story of India's blueprint for unity.
Okay, so take a look at this map from 1947. It really shows you the sheer scale of the challenge. I mean, this wasn't one country, it was a patchwork, a mosaic of British provinces and hundreds of princely states, and each one had its own identity. So the job wasn't just about getting independence, right? It was about building a whole nation, basically from the ground up.
And that one question, right there, was the central challenge. Every single policy, every debate, the very structure of the new government was all an attempt to answer it. How do you possibly create unity without crushing the very diversity that makes the country so unique? Now, before a single law was written, India's leaders had to figure out the very soul of this new nation. And let me tell you, they were not on the same page. You had these powerful, competing visions that clashed over what freedom truly meant and how it should be won.
So at the heart of one of these visions, you've got Mahatma Gandhi and his idea of satyagraha, or soul force. He argued that real power wasn't found in weapons, but in the moral courage of nonviolent resistance. This was a radical idea, and it completely transformed the freedom struggle from just a political conflict into a spiritual battle for the nation's soul.
Then you add another vision, this one coming from the Indian National Congress. In their 1930 pledge, they demanded Purna Swaraj, or complete independence. Now, this was a political declaration. It framed freedom as an absolute, non-negotiable right to self-rule, completely free from any British connection. But wait, there was a third, much more revolutionary vision. Figures like Bhagat Singh believed that non-violence just wasn't enough. They argued that freedom was a right that had to be seized, and that absolutely no sacrifice, not even your own life, was too great for the cause of a total revolution of society. Okay, so you've got these powerful, totally conflicting visions for the nation's soul all swirling around. How on earth do you build a government, a practical structure, that can contain all of them and actually hold the country together? Well, the answer they landed on was federalism. And the core idea is simple, but, really powerful. Instead of putting all the power at the center, you divide it. You share it between a national government and the regional or state governments. It gives both a real sense of autonomy. And this really shows you the fork in the road India was facing. On one hand, it could have created a unitary system, kind of like Sri Lanka, where all power just flows from the center. Instead, it looked toward a federal model, similar to what Belgium used to manage its own cultural divides, sharing power across different regions. So India developed its own unique model. You can think of it like this. Some powers, like national defense, belong only to the central government. Others, like local policing, belong to the states. And then some, like education, are shared. And here's the really brilliant part. The system is flexible. It can grant special status to some states, like Nagaland, to protect their unique cultures. It's a system literally built for diversity. Okay, so having a blueprint is one thing, right? But actually making it work in the real world, that's a whole different ballgame. This is where the theory hit the pavement, starting with two of the biggest challenges imaginable: language and local power.
One of the first and honestly most difficult tests was just redrawing the map. The old colonial boundaries were pretty much random. The new plan was to create linguistic states, to make sure that people who spoke the same language lived within the same state. It was a risky move, for sure, but one that was based on recognizing and respecting diversity.
And these numbers, wow, they really lay out the true linguistic challenge. Yeah, Hindi is the most spoken language, but it's the mother tongue for less than half the population. No single language had a majority. So, what does this mean? It means imposing one national language was just never going to fly. It would have torn the country apart. So, what did India's leaders do? They chose being flexible over being forceful. They kept English as an official language right alongside Hindi, a really pragmatic compromise. And that cautious approach helped India avoid the kind of brutal civil war that a rigid language policy sparked in its neighbors, Sri Lanka. But, this whole idea of sharing power didn't just stop at the state level. To really manage diversity and bring democracy down to the grassroots, power had to be pushed even further down. And that's the whole idea behind decentralization, empowering local governments in villages and towns. And this wasn't just some theory in a textbook. It became a living, breathing, and, often pretty messy reality.
Local self-government, or Panchayati Raj, sparked huge national debates and became a powerful engine for change, right at the village level.
Then, in 1992, a huge step forward, a real game changer. A constitutional amendment came along that completely revolutionized local governance. It made regular elections for local bodies mandatory. It created state-level election commissions to oversee them, and, get this, it reserved at least 1/3 of all leadership spots for women. Incredible.
And the result of all this? It is absolutely staggering. Today, India has around 3.6 million elected local representatives. That's more people than the entire population of many countries. It is, by a massive margin, the largest democratic experiment anywhere on Earth.
So when you step back and look at the whole journey, you see that India's entire political system was forged as a direct response to its immense diversity. It's a story that goes from these grand, philosophical ideas of freedom to a practical, flexible government built not on hoarding power, but on sharing it.
And that's the thing to remember. This whole system, this blueprint for unity, it's not some dusty old document. It's a living, breathing experiment, constantly being tested by new social, economic, and political pressures. Which leaves us with a final question for you to think about. What is the greatest challenge to this grand experiment today?